Hi guys, welcome to my channel, Lush Gardener. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. So another commonly asked or frequently asked question is, what do I use for covering up the drain hole? Now there are different things that you can use. I will give you an idea what I tend to use depending upon what's available with me. Now these are the things that I tend to use, but again there are people around the world that tend to use different stuff for covering up their drain holes depending upon whatever material is available. So a lot of times I have these green shade cloths. Like right now I don't use shade cloths because it's very windy over here. So rather than discarding this and throwing this out, I tend to make these small cuts and I place them at the base of the pot like this. And then I add some soil. Now this works as a filtration. Now if you want, you can even use a regular net as well, but this also tends to work out really well. This is like basically recycling it. I do not have to waste money on buying a net. So the material that I have, I cut it into, now this is a little bigger, but I tend to make it a little bit more smaller so that it can fit exactly on the drain hole. And then I add my soil and then it works as a filtration. Other than that, if you don't have this, you can even use one small little pebble as well. That's absolutely fine. Just use a pebble and then fill it up with soil. Any pebble will do, and then just fill it up with soil. Or recently I started making these clay plates or these disc out of the remaining material that I'm left with. Usually when I tend to make my papercrete pot, I'm left with a little bit of material, so I started to make these small little disc. You can check the video in the description below if you want to know how to make it, in case if you have excess material left over after making the pot. So I make this disc and the lower portion is completely flat. So what I tend to do is I use the uneven surface above it like this, and that covers up my drain hole, and the water also tends to pass through. Apart from all this, you also have something called as leca. Now leca can be a little bit expensive if you are going to use, but if you have a good amount of leca that is just going in waste, you can use it at the base. Just cover it up like this, depending upon how big your pot is, or you can just use one as well. But if you want to use a layer of it, you can do this, and then you can add your soil over it. If you do not want to waste so much of leca, then all you can do is just add one. That's all about it. So these were some of the things that I usually try. I don't usually use leca because I use it for propagation, but in case if I don't find anything, I just add one at the base, and that's all about it. Another important thing what you can also add is broken clay pots. If you're making your own pots, at times the pots tend to break, or let's say that you had an old pot that happened to break and now you have the pieces, you can even use these pieces. The only thing that these pieces are very big, so probably you can break them down. But if you have a very big pot, you can just use the bigger pieces. Like this is a very small pot, so I cannot use these because it's going to decrease the depth of the pot. But let's say that if you have a big pot, you can always use these broken clay pots at the base like this. Let's say that this pot was very big enough, and then I have added at the base the broken clay pots, and that's all about it. You are done. Then you just add some soil over it and you are done. There are two benefits of this. One is it is going to cover your drain hole, and if your pot is very big, it will reduce the depth of your pot. So guys, these were some of the things that I tend to use personally. Probably there are other people who tend to use something else, but these are the things that I recycle. Whatever is available in my vicinity of the garden, I tend to use that. I do not specially pay money to buy anything to cover. There are people who tend to buy net. They pay money and they buy net. It's up to you. If you want to pay money and buy net, that is also going to work out really well. But if you have certain materials at home that are just going in waste, you can definitely use that rather than just throwing it off. So guys, I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep planting.